Have you ever heard about the $64 tomato? It's this cautionary tale about how growing your own food to save money can actually end up becoming a pretty expensive hobby. Hey folks, if we haven't met before, my name is Tara. I garden in the Bay Area, and over the past 3 years or so, all of this area, which used to be completely lawn, has now been converted into usable gardening space, and gardening has become a complete obsession of mine. And it has also become pretty expensive, and I have over the course of the years figured out ways to really keep some of my costs down, and I'm going to share them with you in this video. So on the front cover of the $64 tomato book, it actually says how one man nearly lost his sanity, spent a fortune, and endured an existential crisis in the quest for the perfect garden. This is a guy with the name of William Alexander. And yeah, what he did, basically, the gist of the book, talks about how he got into gardening and he started buying all these expensive things. He put in raised beds, and trellising, and irrigation, and built all kinds of structures to keep the groundhogs and the deer out. And he eventually ended up calculating how much it all cost him, both the materials as well as his time. And then he took that and divided it by the number of tomatoes he got, and it was approximately $64 a tomato. Of course, it's a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek book because he intended it to be funny, but there was an element of realism in it. And, you know, the structures that he put in place, the raised beds and the preventative measures for the deer and the groundhog, those are things that do last for years and years. So really, I mean, you don't calculate it all into 1 year, but still, I think his point was that you could spend a lot of money and make this a really expensive hobby if you're not really deliberate about keeping your costs down. And let's face it, when you start off gardening, there are a lot of things that you're going to have to spend money on. You're going to have to spend money on improving your soil right from the get-go so that you start having a productive garden. But you want that to build over the years. And whatever money you're putting into your garden, you want to not just save costs, but you also want to keep building this garden that's going to be healthy and resilient and abundant. Just look at all the leaves on the roof. My husband's going to have to get up there and blow those things off. But that actually brings me to the first point, is composting. Composting is probably one of the best things that you can do for your garden. Let me show you my setup. So while we're walking there, I actually just blow the leaves away from my pathways. I let them sit on the sides because a lot of little creatures, bugs and things, overwinter and actually have their nests in the leaves. So you don't want to get rid of everything. You want the leaves to stay in place and decompose in place as well, because they're going to keep the weeds down and they're going to create a healthier topsoil. I've got all these beautiful oak trees around my property, and they absolutely dump leaves everywhere. So what I do, because there's just so much leaves, is I create this pile over here. I always say I'm very greedy when it comes to leaves. I can't believe all the years that when we had our gardener, the mow and blow guy, we would really encourage him to take it all away and dump it wherever he dumped it, right? Now I hold on to every single leaf that falls from my trees, and that actually serves as my mulch in addition to decomposing and becoming leaf mold. So this is the pile that I've been building. I've actually got it in several other bins as well, but this is one of those. It's kind of like the overflow because we've got so much leaves. I just collect it over here. I mulch it, and that's why it's not as big a pile as it would be. But I do mulch the leaves. I've got a nice Ryobi leaf mulcher that I've showed you guys in prior videos. But then I wet this thing down and then I cover it with this black plastic. And I do come regularly and open it and kind of disturb it, because if I don't, lots of little creatures like to build their homes in there, especially when it's cold outside, and I just don't want them building their homes in my leaf mold or in my compost piles. Let me show you my compost piles. So I've got bins like this all over my property. Actually, I'm trying to consolidate them all to just this one area because it's just too much to have to keep up with all these compost bins. This is the latest one that I got from Vago Garden. I'm absolutely loving it. It is full of rotting leaves and they're decomposing really quickly. I can't believe the number of times that I've come and filled this up. I only use this for yard waste and for some leaves, but most of my leaves I put in other bins. Anyway, to complete my thought, I've been refilling this over and over again, and it keeps decomposing, settling down. I refill it, I refill it. I think I've done that at least like 10 times, and now finally it has compacted quite a bit, and I'm going to just let it be until spring, and then come spring, I can harvest from the bottom. I can remove this door and harvest from the bottom. Back to my other leaf piles. Now this one I'm wetting down regularly. It only has leaves in it. I try to make leaf mold, which is just plain leaves, nothing else. And this is one of them. And I've got two more over here as well, in addition to that pile. So as you can tell, I've got a lot of leaves, and these have been mulched. So they are actually much less volume than they were originally, at least half the volume, maybe even more. So ton of leaves. This one I use for my worms. Now I got this on Nextdoor. Someone was giving it away for free. It's called an aero bin, and it's actually broken. It's supposed to have a pipe that goes from top to bottom and keeps the aeration going, but that pipe broke, so I just kind of stuck this PVC pipe in here. But this is only for my food scraps, and you can't see the food scraps because I keep covering it with leaves. So I do a layer of food scraps and I dump leaves on it, and that keeps that nitrogen carbon balance so it doesn't overheat and doesn't kill all my worms. But the main worms I've been seeing in this have been the maggot-like worms. They're not actually maggots. They're the soldier fly larvae babies. I don't think they're here anymore, but there was a lot of them not too long ago. Now the weather's kind of become cold. But yeah, this thing is going to become beautiful vermicompost that I can harvest from the bottom over here. So can't wait to do that. Now, I did say that I do not like any critters in my compost bins, and this is how I keep them out. I've got this iron rod thing, and I stick it into my compost pile and I give it a quick swirl like this. And I do that about once a week or so, because any longer than that, the little critters are going to like to make their home in here. The other thing that this does is it gives some nice aeration to the pile and helps things decompose faster. Yeah, so I like to keep my composting process simple. I do not, and let me repeat that, I do not like turning my compost. I absolutely hate doing that. It is so labor intensive, and really, I find that that's not necessary. I've been composting for, gosh, 5-6 years, maybe even more, and I consider myself an expert composter. I make tons of great compost, and I never turn my piles. Now, that being said, I mostly do cold composting, which means I set up the pile and then I do the twirling thing every once in a while to keep the aeration going, and I definitely make sure that it is moist, kind of like a wet sponge moist. And so these criteria are really essential to form compost, but I'm not hung up at all about the browns and the greens. I just put whatever in it. Like I said, I've got the leaf mold piles there. That's pretty much mostly carbon, but that decomposes pretty quickly as well because I go and aerate, I keep it moist, and very important, I actually mulch the leaves before putting it in those piles. And the larger surface area, because the leaves are smaller, really help it decompose a lot faster. So yeah, composting does not have to be complicated, and no, you do not need to turn your piles. You just need to make sure that you aerate them every once in a while. I'd say at least once every couple of weeks. So when I say wet sponge, this is kind of the consistency that you're looking for. See, if you squeeze it, you may get a drop of water or so, but you can tell that it's nice and moist. The other bin, on the other hand, this one that I just topped off yesterday, this is dry. These leaves are dry. I need to wet these down. And another thing that I do to really keep the moisture in is I cover it with something like this. I just put some black plastic on it, and then you want to throw a brick or two, kind of stretch it out, and really push the leaves down with it. Now you want to do this after you wet it down, obviously, but I am leaving these compost bins open because the rains are coming pretty soon, and I want this to capture a lot of moisture. Now, if you live in a place where it's raining constantly, you want to make sure that you put the lid on it because you don't want this to get sopping wet. Now, one of the nice things about having this plastic on top is that the worms absolutely love it. They like that warm coziness of not being completely exposed. And so the worms will really come up and work on the upper layers of your compost if you keep it covered. There's one problem though. The little mice and things, they also like a nice warmth. and the cover. So I got to come and take this off at least once every couple of weeks, give it that quick mix, and that will keep the mice away. So I regularly sift my compost and put it into bins like this. As you can see over here, beautiful compost. I can't tell you how rich this is, you guys. And I actually just put this in today, but there are worms at the bottom and they will come and continue to work on this compost. So this is, it's really good stuff. And when I say sifting, this is what I've got. My husband made this frame for me. And then I just put this over here. I dump my compost in here. I give it a little shake. And then I take the stuff that is remaining over here, put it back in my compost pile for another go around, and I'll have my beautiful compost ready underneath. So there is something even better than composting in bins like that, and that is composting in place. So I usually use a lot of my leaves to cover my walkways, to cover my raised beds for the winter, especially if I'm not cover cropping. I cover them with leaves. And then also, if I've got plants growing, it's difficult to grow cover crops if you've got plants growing, but you can use your leaves to mulch heavily and thickly. And that keeps the moisture in the soil and also prevents evaporation. And in my climate, mulch is highly essential. I cannot live without it. And it's really what helps keep the soil life, those microorganisms that really work to increase the fertility of your soil. Mulch is what keeps it all going. So I can't do without it. I actually use a thick layer of leaves, easily 6 inches during the winter, maybe even more. And during the summer, I drop it to maybe 2 or 3 inches, but I always have a nice thick layer of mulch all around my garden. That is one of the disadvantages of compost bins, is a lot of the stuff that you put in there, as it starts to break down and that soil life starts to build, it's building in your compost bins. It's not building in the place that you want it to be. So if you can possibly bury holes in your garden or cover your garden with leaf mulch, that's really the best way to build fertility, is where you're actually going to be growing things. I was just passing by my GreenStalks. I thought I'd spin around and show you, but wait a minute, look at this, you guys. This is my citrus planter from Vago Garden. This is a bottom watered planter, and it's self-watered. So when it's out of water, which it's not, because you can see this little bobby thing going up and down, I can refill it. And this tree just really transformed after I put it in here. And the shock of the transplant turned all the little oranges orange, but the plant itself is looking so beautiful, so healthy. Check out my GreenStalks, you guys. I planted all these pansies. I got this little 6-pack of pansies and I planted it, and they're all coming into bloom. And you know, the beauty of these pansies is that they keep creating little seedlings. So I've got little pansy plants growing everywhere. Look at all those. And if I'm diligent about digging these out and putting them in little 6-packs, I can have a whole bunch of new pansies to plant in my garden in no time at all. And oh yeah, these also divide very easily. So if you push your finger down here and pull out one of these branches, it will often come with roots, and you can take and plant those, and you can get lots and lots and lots of pansy plants. So invest in 1 or 2 6-packs and you can have tons of pansies if you know what to do. And this one here is my other GreenStalk. I'm loving this snow color. I can't wait to do some other combos in spring. I'm thinking like, I actually had a dream the other night that I wanted to do this one combined with some kind of pink and some kind of terracotta brownish color. So think about it, terracotta, pink, and cream. It's almost like Neapolitan ice cream, but not quite. That would look pretty, right? Any other color combinations that you guys want to suggest to me? I am so excited about doing color combos now. I absolutely hated the idea before snow came around, and snow has really converted my thinking, and now I'm all excited about combos. So I don't often bring you guys to this side of my garden because I'm not that much into showing off my succulents, but I have got quite a collection of succulents over here. Lots of leaves that have fallen from the trees. But yeah, I've got a friend who keeps giving me plants, mostly succulents, and I just keep stacking them up, just sticking them here or there. Succulents are really, really easy to grow. So there's a person on YouTube. Her name is Laura Loves Succulents. That's the name of her YouTube channel. And she has this theory that if you can get your succulent to to stand up, it will grow. So something like this or like this, all I need to do is just stick it in some soil and now it'll grow. That's how easy it is. This here is a little water fountain that I converted into a succulent planter. Isn't it cute? Every year it looks so beautiful at this time of year, and actually in spring it looks even prettier because these start to change color. I really need to stop watering them with hard water. Look at all those hard water stains. Really takes away from the beauty. So I'm not going to water these with hard water anymore. But yeah, succulents are something that if you have trouble getting plants to grow, these will surely boost your confidence because they're so easy to grow. So one of the reasons why I wanted to show you those plants, the succulents, and talk about them is because that is another way that you can save a boatload of money is share plants. Share plants with friends and get plants from them, and you will save so much money. I mean, those succulents that I was showing you, like one little pot of 2 or 3 of them could cost you like $5, $6, $7, $10, depending on the succulent. Yeah, it adds up very, very quickly. And the same with vegetables and any others. Flowers, you buy them at the nurseries, they cost so much money for a single plant, right? So if you can figure out, learn how to grow your own plants from seeds, it's a little bit of a muscle to develop, but gosh, it'll save you so much money. And there's so much more varieties when you grow from seeds as well. So I'll be posting more seed starting videos as the year sort of turns, January, February timeframe, because that's when I'll be starting a lot of my stuff from seeds. I've got a lot going on right now, but I think a lot of people are not as interested in seed starting at this time of the year during the holidays. So I will put out more videos in the early January, February timeframe. So speaking of starting from seeds, that's another muscle coming into my sunroom here that you need to develop, or at least another discipline that you need to develop is saving seeds. So I've got this shelf over here. This is where I just sort of throw my seeds that I'm pulling from plants in the garden. I've got sunflowers, I've got beans, I've got chili peppers, bags of zinnias. These have already dried. I've got some that I forgot to save that are going rotten. But yeah, you get the idea. Save seeds. And if you save seeds from plants that grow in your garden, every year they develop more acclimatization to your environment and they will grow so much better in your garden. So grow your own saved seeds whenever possible, especially for the kinds of plants that you grow quite frequently, like beans over here. Easy to save seeds, and I grow them in succession multiple times a year, so might as well save seeds. I'm here with my winter GreenStalks because the next thing that I want to talk to you about, as we spoke about seeds and saving seeds for things that you grow the most, is grow what you actually like to eat. Grow what your family actually enjoys. Now, you definitely want to grow some new and interesting things every year, but definitely focus on making sure that you eat what you grow. Food waste is huge in the United States, and you definitely don't want to waste, especially the food that you grew with all your love and care that is so nutrient dense in your own backyard. Let me show you my winter GreenStalks. So for those of you that follow my channel regularly, you know when I planted these up and you've been following how they've been growing from nothing to looking so beautiful and so gorgeous. A lot of these lettuce have actually started to bolt. You see that? That long stem over there? That means that this lettuce is on its way out. Look at this one. It looks so perfect. And if I don't harvest this and if I don't eat this, it's going to start getting bitter. So sometimes I grow a little too much for even my family to consume. And then I also have this thing that, oh, if I harvest that, then the GreenStalk's not going to look as pretty anymore. So for me, it's a balance between beauty and actual utility. But you really should try to eat what you grow. Do as I say, don't do as I do. Look at the Swiss chard. Looks absolutely gorgeous. And these things taste sweeter because they are cool weather friendly plants, let's call it that. They actually taste sweeter and more delicious when you grow them in climates that they love. Look at all the spinach that I need to harvest. So one thing that I did with this GreenStalk that looks a little shaggy, let's call it that, is I covered this with insect netting because I didn't want that white butterfly to be laying its eggs because I've got a lot of brassicas over here. And I finally took it off because I noticed the white butterfly wasn't around anymore. And because I kind of let it be under the insect netting for so long, uh, yeah, I didn't really take care of it. Let's put it that way. So there were just lots and lots of plants that hadn't been harvested, hadn't been eaten. So I went ahead and pulled a whole bunch out. And yeah, it's not looking as pretty as I would like it to, but still got a lot of beautiful food in it that I do need to come out here and harvest. And this green stalk, doing something different. I am growing onions for the first time this year. And I'm growing only one per pocket because these are large size onions. This one over here is garlic. I'm growing two because I figure, that should fit about two, right? But the onions are going to become really, really big. And I've seen there's this lady, YouTube channel is Mustard Seed Homestead. She grew onions. They grew so large that they actually pushed up the top reservoir. That's how big they were. So I'm hoping for that kind of luck. First time that I'm doing this. And if you guys have grown onions in your green stock, let me know in the comments. Onions or garlic. I'd love to see how these are doing and how they did for you. And if you've got any tips, like one thing that I did notice about the lady from Mustard Seed Homestead is that the ones at the top seem to be doing a lot better than the ones in the lower tiers. Anyway, go follow her channel. It's got a lovely channel. So many beautiful green stalks. My bok choy green stalk is growing really well. These are Joy Choys, a particular variety. It's an F1 variety that I will grow every single year. I don't eat the whole bok choy. I only eat the leaves. And this is only about maybe I'd say a third of the size that this thing is going to grow to. This grows huge and the leaves are so delicious and tender. So grow Joy Choy. It's a lovely bok choy. And if you've never eaten bok choy before, start with this one. You will be a believer. This one over here is wild arugula, and it's a perennial and grows really, really well in the green stock. Look at my teddy bear dill. It's looking so cute. And I was talking to you guys about starting from seed in the green stock. Yeah, they take forever to grow and look pretty. And I then come and end up doing things like sticking a little viola or pansy here or there just because I want to make it look a little colorful and beautiful. But yeah, it takes a long time for the green stock to look beautiful when you start from seed directly. And that's why I usually always like to start from plants. And while we're looking at these things, you may see all this awkward irrigation setup that I've been experimenting with over here. And that's the next thing that you really need to focus on in order to have a thriving garden is really watch your water utilization. Okay, I came and stood over here so you can see my green stalks a little bit better. They're looking so pretty. But yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about irrigation because I think that is, in my hot, dry climate, that has been one of the biggest game changers, not just in my green stock, but all over my garden. Once I installed irrigation, particularly drip irrigation, and the plants got that consistent watering, I have to water actually every day during summer, but you've got to water deeply. Just doing this with the hose and wetting just the surface all over your garden, that really does nothing because sometimes I go and I dig the surface that I just watered, it's completely dry underneath, right? And if your soil has gotten hydrophobic, which can happen if you live in a very hot climate, then what happens is the water, rather than actually seeping into all of the soil, it finds the quickest path and kind of goes down and then leaves everything else kind of dry. So you really want your soil never to go hydrophobic. And the way to do that is consistent watering and deep watering whenever you do water. Another thing that I don't spend a lot of money on at all is tools. Now, there are a few favorite tools that I absolutely love that I will buy good quality. This is my Felco 2s over here. They're like an extension of my hand. I go out in the garden every morning to look at my plants and I take this with me because I'm always snipping something or deadheading something. This is a great tool to have and I buy great quality. Felco 2 is one of the best out there. And yeah, you don't want to buy those cheapo ones that you get at the dollar store or whatever because they will break in no time at all. So save your money, get this, it'll last you a lifetime. Hori Hori tool, this is another one of my favorites. You don't need a separate trowel tool, a separate weeding tool. This one is so multi-purpose. It's even got little gradations over here for measurements to know how deep you want to plant things. So this tool, just one of my very best friends in the garden. I use it every day, every time I'm in the garden. Then a few other things. You need a good rake. You don't need 5 different kinds of rakes. Just get a few really good tools. Oh, another one I want to show you is my Gorilla Cart. I love my Gorilla Cart. It is so sturdy. I've had it for years and I just use it. I don't use a wheelbarrow at all anymore. I love the way that you can tip it and empty soil. I love this thing. I've got a larger size as well because I loved it so much and got another one in a different size, but I drag this around my garden everywhere I go. Now, one of the places that I do get tools from, that I keep an eye on and get a lot of useless stuff actually as well, is next door or local buy nothing groups. I just can't help myself. When I see something for the garden, I end up getting it. And I often end up re-gifting a lot of stuff. But yeah, garden tools, a lot of people give them away. So keep an eye on your local buy nothing groups, local next door giveaway kinds of places. Yeah, you can get a lot of actually pretty expensive gardening equipment for free from a lot of these places. So one more thing I wanted to say was, while a lot of the things that I have shared today, how to save money on soil, how to compost, how to start from seeds, not all of these things are accessible to everybody. Not everybody can compost. Not everybody has the time or energy to start from seeds. People have accessibility issues to lifting loads of things and dragging them around. I get all of that. So that is where the trade-off comes into the picture. There's this triangle called the cheap, fast, good triangle. At least that's what I call it. And basically what it means is that only 2 of those 3 sides of the triangle can be true at any point in time. So if you want something that is cheap, it's not necessarily as good or doesn't work as efficiently. That's the fast part of it. So the other thing is if you go for very high quality, it's not necessarily cheap, but it will get the job done. And sometimes you can get cheap, fast, and good. I think about technology as it improves every day and becomes cheaper. That's one example of something that is going completely against the cheap, fast, good triangle. Things are getting better and improving, and the quality is improving, and they're getting cheaper, right? So, yeah, think about what you want to give in versus what you want to stick with. So, for example, if you do have ability issues and you want to get an elevated planter like the one behind me over there, that might be a very worthwhile investment for you because it really saves your back in the long run. Or like me, if you want things that are beautiful because it's a hobby for you and it's part of your mental sort of therapy thing that you want to get certain things that look beautiful, then go ahead and get it. Get things that you love, even if it means spending a little bit of money, but be choiceful about where you spend your money. You don't want your gardening hobby to really take over your pocketbook. So, as we are approaching the holidays, I wanted to take a moment to say happy holidays to all of you. You have been a wonderful community. I get so much out of reading your comments and interacting with you. And I actually was not going to be making this video today because, it's the holidays. I've got a party to go to this evening. But I realized that you guys are part of what makes this hobby of mine, this YouTube video production, and my garden, showing my garden to you and hearing about your problems or things that you've done that you have enjoyed in the garden, the questions that you asked me about my GreenStalks, all of those things are what makes this so much fun and so much interesting to me. And I just want to say thank you to all of you. And I wanted to also call out those who actually have YouTube channels or Instagram accounts. I would love to actually meet you and see what you look like. If you want to share in the comments below what your Instagram handle is or what your YouTube account is, I would love to follow you guys. And I'm sure other people in the community would like to follow you as well. So do leave it in the comments. And once again, thank you and happy holidays. I hope you found this video fun and interesting and useful in some way. Until next time, folks, live green and love your greens.